It was a grey and listless afternoon in Baker Street, the sort that London produces in her thousands, half fog, half drizzle, with a reluctant sun lingering like a faded candle behind the soot-stained clouds. The coal fire in our sitting room burned low, and the air was heavy with the mingled scents of tobacco and damp wood. Holmes sat curled in his armchair, long fingers steepled, the blue smoke from his pipe tracing languid spirals above his hawk-like profile. You folk had long ceased to wonder how he could sit motionless for hours, like a carved idol of concentrated thought.
My dear Watson, you are restless. I can almost hear the creak of your impatience from across the rug. Surely the silence of Baker Street is not more dreadful than the din of battlefields you once tended?
You read my thoughts again, Holmes. I was merely wondering how you can sit thus, hour after hour, staring into that haze as if the fog outside were some kind of clue.
Everything, my dear fellow, is a clue, if one has the wit to perceive it. Observe the pattern of soot upon the window pane. To the casual eye, nothing. But to mine, it records the passing of a tradesman's cart whose wheels were freshly painted. One reel splashed a different hue, red rather than black. Ergo, the man was painting it this morning, the work incomplete.
And from this you would deduce his occupation, his habits, perhaps his marital status, no doubt?
Precisely. But alas, we have no tradesman's mystery before us today, merely the tedium of peace. It is in such stillness that London conceals her deepest miseries.
You sound almost melancholic, Holmes. Surely you do not crave disaster simply for the sake of occupation?
Not disaster, Watson, only the truth. Humanity is an untidy ledger, full of blots and balances that cry to be reconciled. A curious mind cannot long remain idle without corroding in its own rust.
Calling from outside. Mr. Holmes, sir, there's a lady to see you. Says her name is Mrs. Merrilow. Wouldn't give more, but she insists her errands of a private nature.
Ah, Providence stirs. Please show her in, Mrs. Hudson. And Watson, observe keenly. A visitor who withholds details from the door, yet braves Baker Street in November, mist, promises something more than domestic triviality.
All these homes I shall watch and learn. Kate! The door opened, and there entered a small, spare woman of middle years. Kay at wither. Her dress was neat, though threadbare, her face pale from long confinement indoors. He curtsied timidly before us, clutching a modest reticule as though it contained her very soul.
Begging your pardon, gentlemen, I'm Mrs. Merrilow of South Brixton. I let lodgings, quiet ones, and it's concerning one of my tenants that I've come.
Be seated, madam. The fire is low, but our hospitality is warm. You spoke of a tenant. Pray, proceed.
It's about the lady in my front room, sir. Been with me these 7 years now, but never a word as to who she truly is. Always veiled she is, never shows her face to mortal soul. Pays regular, neat as a pin, but of late she's grown dreadful restless. Yesterday, she asked me where she might find Mr. Sherlock Holmes of Baker Street.
Indeed. Then I assume she sent you as her ambassador.
Aye, sir. Said she lacked the courage to come herself, but that she's got something upon her conscience, something fearful. Said she'd rather speak to you than to the clergy or the police.
Interesting distinction. Those who fear confession to the law, yet seek the counsel of reason, often tread upon that grey boundary between crime and tragedy. Did she give any name beyond what you've said?
None, sir, only that she once was a woman of means, before the accident, she called it.
The veil suggests disfigurement. The years of secrecy imply shame or protection. And the appeal to me, rather than the law, hints at remorse rather than guilt. Very well. Tell her, Mrs. Merrilow, that Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson will call upon her tomorrow at noon.
Oh, bless you, sir. She'll be grateful, I'm sure of it. Poor soul! She's not been the same since the news came out about the lion.
The lion, you say?
Yes, sir. She trembled something awful when she read it in the papers, and I don't rightly know why, but she near swooned at the word.
Thank you, Mrs. Merrilow. That will suffice for now. You may leave your address with Mrs. Ardson, and we shall attend to your lodger in the morning.
You're a good man, Mr. Holmes, and I pray God you bring her peace.
The poor woman departed as timidly as she came, leaving behind a faint odor of damp shawl and worry. Holmes sat silent for several moments, fingers pressed against his temple as though mapping the unseen connections between veil, accident, and lion. A strange case indeed. Do you suppose the lady's affliction is physical or moral, Holmes?
Possibly both. The lion reference is singular. There was a case reported last week of a menagerie accident in Maidenhead, the keeper mauled by his own beast. You see how threads of coincidence weave themselves into pattern, Watson?
You think this veiled lodger is somehow connected?
My dear fellow, I think nothing. I only observe. But should my theory prove correct, this lady's veil hides more than scars of the flesh. It conceals a secret of the soul.
And yet you agree to see her, despite her secrecy?
It is precisely her secrecy that invites analysis. A woman veiled for 7 years does not suddenly seek counsel without cause. Something or someone has disturbed her equilibrium. The lion may have stirred not merely her memory, but her conscience.
You make it sound almost like a haunting.
Guilt is the most efficient ghost in existence. It needs neither chains nor midnight to rattle its victims.
You speak as if you pity her already.
Pity, Watson, is an emotion best reserved until after one knows the facts. Tomorrow we shall replace pity with knowledge and perhaps justice with understanding.
Holmes rose then, tossing the spent ashes of his pipe into the grate. His profile, lit by the glow of the dying fire, seemed chiseled from the same stone as his intellect, cold, precise, unyielding. I have often wondered if he felt as deeply as other men, or whether his compassion was merely another tool of his science.
You are pondering again, Watson. Your brow furrows as if plotting surgery rather than sympathy. Come, take your pen. You shall accompany me tomorrow, and perhaps your record of this affair will serve to illuminate the darker corners of the human heart.
I confess, Holmes, these moments before a case always stir my curiosity. There is something electric in the air like thunder waiting to strike.
Then let us hope it strikes truth and not tragedy. For if my instinct serves, the veiled lodger's tale will not be a pleasant one.
The following morning found us at South Brixton, a modest street of faded villas crouched beneath the November gloom. The house of Mrs. Bowes. Merino was small but respectable, its brass plate dull with age yet polished by care. The landlady herself met us at the door, her eyes alight with mingled hope and fear.
She's expecting you, gentlemen. Been pacing her room since dawn, poor dear. Said to tell you she's ready now, whatever that means.
Tree. All followed her through a narrow passageway, fragrant with furniture polish and stale coal smoke. At the end stood a door, slightly ajar. Within, the air was thick with lavender water and an indefinable sadness. By the window sat a woman dressed entirely in black, a thick veil obscuring her face. She did not rise as we entered.
Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, I presume. You are kind to come.
The kindness, madam, lies in your trust. We are at your service. May we sit?
Please. I have long dreaded this day, and yet it brings relief. For 7 years, I have lived behind this veil, hiding from the world and from myself, and from myself. But the burden grows heavier, and I can bear it no longer.
You need not fear us, madam. Whatever your sorrow, it will find no judgment here.
You are good, doctor, but what I must tell is not easily spoken. You may have read of the tragedy at the Ronder's wild beast show years ago, the one where the lion escaped and killed a man. Wait.
Indeed, the newspapers spoke of the keeper's death and the grievous injuries to his wife. If I am not mistaken, you are that wife, Mrs. Ronder?
Yes, I was she. The veil you see hides what remains of my face. But it is not my disfigurement that haunts me, Mr. Holmes. It is the truth of how that man died.
Holmes inclined his head slightly. No, his grey eyes glinting not with triumph but with compassion, a rare expression upon that ascetic countenance. He did not interrupt her, and in the silence that followed, even the ticking of the clock seemed to hold its breath.
Then speak freely, madam. Whatever you reveal shall be weighed with reason and discretion.
I thank you. What I am about to tell has never passed my lips before.
Her voice trembled, and as she lifted her veil just enough to draw breath, I caught the faint outline of a ruin, once human, because the sight struck me like a chill wind through the soul. Thus began the tale that would lead Holmes and me through the tangled shadows of guilt, love, and redemption. The sorrowful case we would forever remember as the adventure of the veiled lodger. The air in that dim chamber seemed to thicken as Mrs. Ronder prepared to unburden her soul. Ham sat forward, elbows upon knees, his face a mask of keen attention. I, for my part, felt a pang of foreboding, for never had I seen suffering so concentrated in one human frame.
You must know, gentlemen, that before the tragedy, I was part of Ronder's wild beast show. My husband managed the enterprise, though I was the true performer, the lion tamer, the queen of the arena, they called me. We traveled from town to town with our menagerie, proud as royalty amid the straw and sawdust.
The profession demands uncommon nerve, madam. To command wild creatures is no small art.
Aye, Mr. Holmes, but it was not the beasts I feared. It was the man who owned them. My husband, Leonardo Ronder, gross, violent, given to drink. The applause that followed my act drove him to jealousy. The money I earned, he squandered. Yet the show was our livelihood, and I endured in silence.
You endured cruelty then, even before the night of the accident?
Cruelty is a mild word, doctor. There were bruises the audience never saw. I had thought myself hardened until fate sent a new groom to our company, a quiet Spaniard named Senor Gonzales. He was gentle with the beasts and gentler still with me. He spoke little English, but his eyes told what his tongue could not.
The eternal triangle, Watson. Nature's oldest tragedy, wearing new paint and sawdust.
Yet one must not judge too swiftly, Holmes.
We were guilty, I admit it. Not of crime at first, only of dreaming of escape. We planned to leave the show, to begin anew under our own names. But Rhonda suspected. He watched, lurked, struck me when none could see. And then came the night of the lion.
Out, proceed, madam. Spare nothing.
We were camped near Maidenhead. The great lion's harking had been restless all day. Rhonda insisted I perform despite my protest. Gonzales was at the cage with me, steadying the gate. The crowd roared its delight. Then Rhonda staggered in, drunk, shouting that he would show them how to master a lion. He struck the creature with his whip. The brute reared, snarled, and in that instant Gonzales turned to me with terror in his eyes. The lock was loose.
You mean the cage door?
Aye, it flew open. The beast leapt upon Rhonda, and the screams that followed. God save me! I hear them still! In the chaos, I felt claws rake my face, then darkness. When I awoke, the cage was closed again, and Rhonda lay dead. Gonzales was gone. They said he fled, fearing blame, but he had done more than flee. He had released the lion.
Deliberately?
Yes, out of pity for me or hatred for Rhonda, I cannot tell. Theg, but the door's bolt had been lifted by human hand. The world called it accident. I alone knew it for vengeance.
You carried that knowledge 7 years?
7 years behind this veil. When the surgeons told me my face could not be restored, I shut myself from mankind. Gonzales wrote once from some port abroad, begging forgiveness, swearing he meant only to frighten Rhonda. I could not answer. Amberly, am I? Ooh. And now the papers speak of another lion killing its keeper, and all the old horror awoke within me. I feel my mind giving way. I thought if I told you, Mr. Holmes, you might judge whether I am as guilty as he.
Guilt is a matter for conscience, madam, not for law. The act of the Spaniard is beyond punishment, for he has punished himself more surely than any judge. You, who suffered wrong and bore it, are no criminal.
You are merciful, sir. Yet there is one thing more. Each night I dream that Ronder stands beside my bed, his throat torn, his eyes accusing. Sometimes I think of joining him to end the torment.
No, madam, you must not speak so. Life, however burdened, is sacred.
Watson is right. The courage that faced lions can surely face memory. The human spirit is stronger than scars.
You speak kindly, Mr. Holmes, perhaps too kindly. But tell me truly, would you have betrayed Gonzales had you known then what you know now?
I betray no one who acts from love, provided love does not turn to cruelty. In this case, justice was already served when the brute he struck became the instrument of his ruin.
Then I may find peace.
If you forgive yourself, yes, no veil, however thick, can hide a soul at rest.
She bowed her head, and I thought she wept beneath the gauze. Holmes remained seated, his gaze fixed upon the trembling hands that clutched the vale's edge. After a long pause, he rose.
Madam, you have been brave in confession. May I offer one final counsel? Burn every relic of the past. The whip, the costumes, the letters. Let no beast, real or remembered, keep you captive any longer.
I shall do so. You have given me more comfort than all the sermons of the clergy.
Then our errand is done. Come, Watson.
We left her thus, motionless by the window. Outside, the November air bit cold upon our cheeks, yet I felt the chill lay deeper still, within the heart. For all Holmes's composure, I saw his mouth tighten as we reached the gate. That was the most pitiful tale I have ever heard, Holmes.
Pitiful indeed, and instructive. You observed, I trust, how the mind will weave its own punishment when the law can find no fault.
Do you believe her entire story?
Every word, her manner bore the stamp of truth. Besides, certain details accord precisely with the evidence recorded at the inquest, details the public never knew. The boat's position, for example, and that's.
Then Gonzales was the real cause?
Yes, though not in malice. Love, warped by despair, can be as deadly as hatred. Yet what interests me more is her endurance. To live veiled among the living, that, Watson, requires heroism of a rare order.
You spoke to her as a confessor rather than a detective.
There are times when detection is but diagnosis, and the disease is sorrow. In such cases, the remedy lies not in handcuffs, but in understanding.
We walked on through the grey streets. London went about its daily indifference, cabs splashing through puddles, newsboys trying their editions. Holmes strode beside me in silence, the fog curling round his coat like thought made visible.
You recall, Watson, that I once said the strangest secrets are not those of crime, but of conscience. This case proves it. The veiled lodger sought neither gold nor glory, only peace. That, to me, is the rarest victory.
And yet I fear for her still. Her mind seemed fragile.
I have written to Father Edward at St. Monica's. He is discreet and compassionate. He will call upon her. Between his faith and her own courage, I trust she will recover some measure of calm.
Holmes seldom spoke of religion, and thousands! And to hear him invoke a clergyman was sign enough that the case had touched even his iron heart. We hailed a cab back to Baker Street, where Mrs. Otting the Foking, because Hudson met us with her customary mixture of curiosity and concern.
Huh? Well, Mr. Holmes, I hope your poor lady feels better for seeing you. As such a thing to hide her face all those years. I've been fair upset thinking of it.
Indeed, Mrs. Hudson. If every London lodging house kept such secrets, the police could close half their offices.
Once more wonder, sir, for London's a world of masks, if you ask me.
A world of masks, yes. And sometimes, Mrs. Hudson, the kindest act we can perform is not to dare them away.
He dismissed her gently and turned to the window where the lamps of Baker Street shone dimly through the fog. For a long time he said nothing, and I respected his silence. At last he spoke.
You see, Watson, how a single act, a lifted boat, may alter a lifetime. The lion did, but what nature taught it. Man, alas, adds motive to instinct and calls it destiny.
You are moved, Holmes, though you would deny it.
I am reflective, not moved. Reflection is the only sentiment consistent with logic. Still, I confess, the sight of that veil will remain with me. It is the very emblem of human frailty, how we hide our wounds and call it modesty.
Then you think her tale will end in peace?
I hope so. Yet hope, like deduction, is but a hypothesis until proven. Should misfortune revisit her, I trust you will remind me that sometimes even the physician must become priest.
I shall remind you, old friend. The fire crackled back to life, casting warm reflections upon the cluttered paraphernalia of Holmes's trade test. Chemical retorts, stacks of papers. Outside, the city's heart beat on, heedless of one veiled woman who had confessed her sorrow and perhaps found absolution. Thus ended the confession of Mrs. Ronder, yet in the echo of her words I sensed that our involvement with the veiled lodger was not quite finished. 2 evenings had passed since our visit to Mrs. Ronder, yet her story lingered with a melancholy persistence. The November fog still pressed against the panes of Baker Street, and Holmes, having smoked himself into abstraction, sat surrounded by newspapers, their columns marked with the blue pencil of investigation. And having the investigation, I had begun to hope the poor woman's confession might close the affair. But Holmes's restless intellect rarely permitted finality, where a question remained untested.
Watson, do you recall the precise phrase our veiled client used concerning the letter from Gonzales?
She said he wrote once from some port abroad, hard, begging forgiveness and claiming he meant only to frighten her husband.
Just so. Observe this clipping from the Madrid Courier. An English lion tamer, late of Ronder circus, was seen performing under the name Don Ramiro. The date corresponds roughly with the year of her letter. You see, the shadow of Gonzales is longer than she guessed.
You mean he yet lives?
Precisely, and more. He may have returned to England. The customs lists at Southampton show a Senior R arriving from Lisbon 3 weeks ago, with crates marked Instrumentos de Circo. Coincidence, perhaps, but coincidence is merely the lazy man's term for pattern unexamined.
But surely, Holmes, what end could he serve here? The lady desires only peace.
Peace is seldom granted to those who owe debts of the heart. I fear Gonzales has come, seeking either reconciliation or redemption. Either may undo the fragile calm we purchased at so dear a price.
You propose to find him?
Naturally. To guard our client's future, we must know what spectre walks behind her.
And how do you begin such a search in the immensity of London?
With method, my dear fellow. Every traveller leaves traces, lodgings, provisions, money orders. Already I have sent word to Lestrade at Scotland Yard to inquire of foreign performers newly arrived. Meanwhile, we shall employ our own legs. Take your coat. We start at the circus quarters near Paddington.
And so, within the hour, we were tramping through the wet pavements, the gas lamps gleaming upon puddles like scattered stars. Holmes moved swiftly, his cloak swirling behind him, his mind visibly at work. At a yard filled with caravans and caged beasts, we found a foreman polishing a brass harness. He eyed us warily.
Good evening. I am seeking a Spaniard of quiet habits, lately from abroad, who may have offered his services with animals.
You mean old Ramiro, perhaps? Came here last week, asking for a place with the lions. We'd none to spare. Seemed a decent chap, scar on his wrist, spoke soft, paid for his beer. Left an address at the Crown and Anchor.
You have rendered me a service, Mr. Higgins. One more question. Did he mention a lady of his acquaintance in London?
Only that there was someone he must see afore he sailed again. Looked sorrowful when he said it.
That will suffice.
Outside, Holmes turned up his collar against the mist. You are convinced it is our man?
The scar clinches it. Mrs. Ronder said he was clawed on the wrist in the struggle. Come, Watson, the Crown and Anchor lies not far, and I have a notion the Spaniard will not relish surprise visitors.
Cousin Chustworth. The tavern stood in a crooked alley near the canal, its windows sweating light into the fog. Within, sailors in stable hands crowded round the stove. Holmes's entrance drew little notice. He ordered coffee, his usual disguise among drinkers, and scanned the room with those eyes that missed no tremor of movement.
There, by the door, the dark fellow with the seaman's cloak. Observe his wrist when he lifts the mug.
A jagged scar. You are right.
Let us approach with courtesy. Fear drives men to folly. Signor Gonzales, I believe.
Starting. Who speaks my name? I know no gentleman in this land.
Then allow me to present one Sherlock Holmes. We shared acquaintance with a lady you once knew as Mrs. Ronder.
Coarsely. She lives then? Dios mio, I thought the fire had taken her.
She lives, veiled but not broken. She has forgiven much, though memory still torments her. What brings you back, Signor?
Conscience, senor. For 7 years I have carried the cage within my soul. I would see her once, only once, to beg pardon.
You intend her no harm?
Harm! I would give my life to heal hers.
Words are easy currency, Signor. Deeds weigh heavier. Suppose she cannot bear the sight of the past you represent.
Then I will look from afar and depart, but I must know that she breathes in peace.
Very well. I shall convey your message and your address. No nearer step unless she wills it. Will you promise that?
By the Holy Mother, yes.
Then keep yourself from public notice. There are still papers that might revive the tale, and pity quickly turns to curiosity.
You are her guardian angel, senor. Tell her Ramiro walks no more with lions.
We left him there, head bowed upon his folded arms. Outside, the fog seemed less oppressive, yet the story's weight had deepened. Holmes was silent until we reached the corner of Baker Street. Tello, you will tell her of him?
I shall judge by her strength. To reveal the living author of her nightmare may destroy the fragile scaffold of her recovery.
Okay. Yet secrecy sits ill upon you, Holmes.
True, but compassion, though seldom in my vocabulary, may on occasion override logic. Remember, Watson, deduction must serve humanity, not dissect it.
The next afternoon found us again at Mrs. Merrilow's. The landlady admitted us with anxious eyes.
I'm glad you've come, gentlemen. She's been restless all night, talking in her sleep, calling some foreign name. I feared she was worse. Ugh.
We entered the same dim room. Mrs. Ronder sat by the fire, the veil lowered. Her voice, though weary, was steadier than before.
I have dreamed, Mr. Holmes. I saw the cage again, but the lime was gone. Each. Only a man stood there, holding out his hand, and I could not take it.
Dreams are but reflections of waking thought, madam. Has any stranger sought you since our last visit?
None. Though once I fancied footsteps under my window. Why do you ask?
Because conscience walks in many shapes. Suppose, madam, that the man who wronged you repented, would you grant him peace?
After a pause, if such miracle were possible, yes, I have lived too long with bitterness.
Then be comforted. The world still holds repentance, even for those who play with lions.
You speak strangely, Mr. Holmes. Do you know more than you tell me?
Perhaps, but knowledge, like medicine, must be measured by the patient's strength. For now, think only that the past is buried, and none shall disturb it.
You are very good. If ever I pray again, it shall be for you both.
We left her calmer, and as we drove home, I ventured to question my companion. You will not reveal to her that Gonzales lives?
Not unless necessity demands. The purpose of truth, Watson, is not always disclosure. Sometimes it is restraint.
Yet do you not fear the man may attempt to see her despite your warning?
They will not. His remorse is genuine. I saw it in the buzz at his temple, the unmistakable sign of inward battle. Besides, I left word with Lestrade to secure him a passage to Spain within the week.
Ever the strategist, Holmes.
Strategy, my dear fellow, is simply applied observation. When one understands motives, outcomes become predictable.
That evening, as the clock struck 10, Holmes leaned back with the faintest smile.
A curious study, Watson. Two souls, both scarred by the same claw, each seeking absolution in the other's image. We, who look on, may learn humility.
You speak almost like a philosopher tonight.
When one has stared long into the cage, even the lion's eyes reflect one's own. That is enough philosophy for any detective.
He took up his violin then, drawing from it a strain so mournful that the fog outside seemed to pause and listen. And I, sitting by the fire, thought of the veiled woman who had faced both beast and man, and of the Spaniard whose repentance would soon vanish upon the sea. The shadow of Gonzales had passed over us. Yet in its wake lay a lesson neither of us would forget. That deduction, stripped of mercy, is but cruelty under another name. It was nearly a fortnight after our second visit to Mrs. Ronder that I found Holmes once more in his chair before the fire, violin idle upon his knees, gaze lost in the thin blue smoke from his pipe. The morning post lay unopened. Only one letter, addressed in a trembling feminine hand, rested upon the mantel. A sense of unease crept over me the instant I saw it. Holmes, whose eyes missed little, spoke before I could frame a question.
You observed the note, Watson. It reached us at dawn from Mrs. Merrilow.
Is our poor lady worse?
Read for yourself.
Reading, Mr. Holmes. Come at once. I fear something dreadful has happened. She spoke of the lion again. Good heavens!
Precisely my exclamation. The cab waits below. Bring your coat. We may yet be in time.
Chance Arthur. The drive to Brixton seemed endless, though the horse galloped as if spurred by our anxiety. The mist clung low upon the streets, muffling every sound. At last the familiar house came into view, and Mrs. Unexpected Dahl, Merrilow herself, met us at the gate, pale and trembling.
Oh, Mr. Holmes, thank God you've come. She's locked herself in since last night. Order an answer, no matter how I called. I feared to break the door alone.
Stand aside, Mrs. Merrilow. Watson, your shoulder, if you please.
We forced the latch. The door yielded with a groan. The curtains were drawn, the air heavy with some sweet, sickly odor. I knew at once prussic acid. Upon the table lay a small bottle, uncorked, beside a folded sheet of paper. And there, in the chair by the window, sat the veiled woman, her hands composed in her lap, a secret at last beyond all earthly keeping. My God, Holmes, she's gone.
Quietly. Yes, Watson. Gone beyond the reach of lions, men, or conscience.
Pen to the note. The ink was fresh, the hand unsteady but legible. Reading. To Mr. Sherlock Holmes, you showed me mercy, and I thank you. Tell the Spaniard, I forgive him. The cage is open, and I go out into the air. The paper fluttered from my fingers. For once even Holmes seemed shaken.
Poor soul. She has chosen her own release. We must do what little remains with dignity. Send for the police, Watson, quietly. Lestrade will see that the matter ends without scandal.
Chance, I obeyed, though my hand trembled as I wrote the message. When I returned, Holmes stood by the hearth, gazing down at the lifeless form. You blame yourself?
Blame is a futile currency. I gave her counsel of life. She chose silence of death. Yet I cannot but feel that my words, sparing her truth, may have left her alone with ghosts. I could have exercised.
You mean Gonzales.
Aye, had she known he lived and sought forgiveness, perhaps she might have waited one day more. But we act according to knowledge, not prophecy. Even the most precise deduction cannot reckon the weight of a human despair.
Sobbing. She was so quiet last night, sir. Spoke kind to me for the first time in years. Said she'd found peace. I thought she meant sleep. Oh, he thought.
In a sense, Mrs. Merrilow, she did. Take comfort that you are kind to her. Such small mercies are the true gold of this world.
Hey, the constable arrived soon after, respectful and subdued. Holmes handled all with a calm bone of long acquaintance with tragedy. Gonzales, when the official duties were done, we stepped out into the pale light of afternoon. A thin rain had begun to fall. She wrote that she forgave him, Holmes. Will you tell Gonzales?
I shall. He sails tomorrow. Let him carry that absolution with him across the sea. Perhaps it will tame the lion within his own breast.
We walked some distance in silence. At last Holmes spoke, more to himself than to me.
You remember, Watson, how once I said that behind every crime lies a story of pain? Here there was no crime, only bane without remedy. The law could not reach it, yet justice, in her own strange fashion, has been served.
I fail to see justice in such an end.
Consider, my friend, she lived 7 years a prisoner to shame and memory. Death was but the last gate in the cage. Who shall condemn the tamer who unfastens it at last?
You speak almost tenderly of her, Holmes.
I reserve tenderness for the rare occasions when logic itself demands it. When I looked upon her veil, I saw not disfigurement, but the symbol of humanity's endless masquerade, each of us hiding scars invisible. To judge her would be to judge ourselves.
Back at Baker Street, the fire burned low. Holmes poured 2 glasses of brandy, an uncommon gesture. He handed one to me with a faint, grave smile.
To the veiled lodger, Watson, may she find the peace this world denied? Ah, hiss!
We drank in silence. Presently I asked what he intended to tell the authorities.
Merely that the lady succumbed to long illness. Lestrade will raise no question. He has learned discretion in my company. There is no purpose served by parading sorrow through the press.
And Gonzales?
I shall meet him at the dock tonight. Words enough can be spoken between men when eyes have said the rest.
The evening found us upon the wharf where the great vessels for Cadiz lay ready to sail. The air smelled of tar and sea salt. Gulls wheeled against a crimson sky. Gonzales stood alone by the gangway, a small bundle at his feet.
You have news, senor?
She is at peace. Her last word was forgiveness.
Covering his face. Dios la guarde. I prayed for that. Now, I can die happy when my time comes.
Lie first, my friend. Devote your strength to gentler creatures. There are enough lions in this world that wear no mane.
I will remember. And you, tell England there was once a woman braver than any man of the ring.
The ship's bell clanged. He turned and went aboard without another word. We watched until the hull merged with the darkening water. Holmes, you look weary.
A case without triumph leaves only weariness. Yet perhaps it was not failure. We are but instruments, Watson. The tune is played by a hand beyond our comprehension.
Back in the cab, neither of us spoke. The city's lights blurred past like ghostly lanterns. At last, as we neared Baker Street, Holmes roused himself.
You will write this one day, my dear fellow, but write it gently. Let her memory be a mirror to those who suffer unseen. Say that Sherlock Holmes, who could read the hearts of men, found at the end that the heart is the one riddle never wholly solved.
I shall, Holmes, and I shall write it just so. He smiled faintly, then turned his gaze to the window, where the rain streaked the glass like tears upon a mask. Thus ended the sorrowful history of the veiled lodger, a story not of crime, but of compassion, not of victory, but of understanding. And though I have chronicled many of my friend's triumphs, none left upon him, or upon me, a deeper mark than this encounter with a woman who tamed lions, yet could not master her own despair. For long after, I would sometimes find Holmes standing by the window at twilight, comb, pipe forgotten in his hand, eyes fixed upon the grey horizon. Then he would turn and say softly, as if to himself,
The cage is open, Watson, and the lion sleeps.
the weeks had passed since the sorrowful end of Mrs. Ronder, the veiled lodger. London had resumed its ceaseless hum about us. The clatter of cabs upon Baker Street sounded once more like the steady pulse of the city's heart. Yet for all its familiar rhythm, there lingered a shadow upon our rooms, a quiet presence that seemed to dwell behind the very ticking of the clock. Holmes sat much as he always did, cross-legged in his armchair, pipe resting between his fingers. But I knew that beneath his calm exterior there stirred a thought unresolved. It was in his eyes, that strange reflective light that came only when some inner calculation was not of figures or facts, but of the spirit itself. Hmm. One evening, as the fog thickened against our window panes and the fire painted restless ghosts upon the ceiling, I ventured to speak of it. Holmes, you have scarcely touched your violin these many days. I fear the case of the veiled lodger weighs upon you more heavily than you admit.
Quietly, you are observant as ever, Watson. The strings fall silent when the mind refuses harmony. That woman's face, or rather, the veil that hid it, has become a symbol in my thoughts, a cipher that no deduction may wholly solve.
You surprise me. I have known you to face the blackest villains in Europe without a tremor. Why should a case so simple in its facts leave such an imprint?
Because it reminds me that the limits of logic are the limits of man. I have traced clues across the width of continents, unmasked murderers by a speck of dust or a stray thread. Yet here was suffering that no microscope could reveal, no reasoning undo. The tragedy lay not in what was done, but in what could not be healed.
Perhaps that is precisely why your sympathy reached her. I have never heard you speak so gently to any client as you did that day.
Sympathy, my dear Watson, is the one faculty that sits awkwardly among my instruments. It clouds the lens through which I view humanity. Yet, on rare occasions, when logic is powerless, it may be the only lens worth using.
Then you do not regret having shown it?
Regret? No, but I question whether it sufficed. She came to us wearing a veil, and though I pierced the mystery of her history, I could not lift the veil from her spirit. She died still hidden, and perhaps in that concealment she found the peace we denied her.
After a pause, I visited Mrs. Merillo yesterday. She has led the rooms again, says she cannot bear them empty. There is a small portrait of Mrs. Ronder upon the mantel, taken before her accident. A handsome face full of life. To look upon it is to understand her tragedy twice over.
Yes, the world is seldom kind to beauty when it fades. We worship appearances, Watson, yet recoil from truth when it strips away the mask. That, I think, was her true wound. Not the lion's claws, but society's gaze.
You speak almost like a philosopher.
An unwilling one. Yet even a detective must, on occasion, deduce something from the human heart. Consider, every crime, every mystery begins with some distortion of emotion. Love twisted to jealousy, hope to greed, pride to vengeance. In studying them, I have catalogued the passions of mankind as surely as any botanist his plants. But Mrs. Ronder's passion was pity, and pity, when turned inward, becomes despair.
You mean that compassion destroyed her?
Precisely. She pitied the man who wronged her, the beast who maimed her, even the husband whose cowardice made him complicit. To forgive all is divine, they say, but to forgive utterly while still in chains is more than human strength can bear. Her mind gave way under the weight of her own mercy.
Softly. And yet, Holmes, you gave her that final word, forgiveness. She echoed it in her letter. Surely that counts for something.
Perhaps, perhaps not. There are words which heal and others which wound, though spoken in kindness. I cannot be sure which mine were.
After a silence, do you ever weary, Holmes, of peering so deeply into the darkness of human nature?
Weary? Constantly. But I know no other trade. When one has stared too long at the abyss, Watson, there is but one remedy: to light a candle, however small,
And what candle shall you light now?
rising, basing, the same as ever, knowledge. First, I shall immerse myself in the study of ancient ciphers. There is a manuscript from the Bodleian that has long teased me. In codes, at least, there is truth untainted by sentiment.
You would retreat into study to escape feeling.
Precisely. Each man must choose his method of survival. Yours is the pen, mine the problem. Between us, we preserve what sanity this curious age allows.
I crackled softly. Outside, the sound of hoofbeats faded into the fog. Holmes returned to his seat and regarded the flames with eyes that saw beyond them. At length, he spoke again, his voice low, almost meditative.
Do you recall, Watson, the Spanish words of Gonzales? When last we saw him, there was once a woman braver than any man of the ring. I have thought much upon that phrase. Courage, after all, is not measured by deeds alone. It lies also in endurance, in facing life's mutilations with dignity. In that sense, she was indeed the bravest of them all.
Then her story shall not be forgotten, Holmes. I will see to that.
I expected nothing less. You have the gift of transmuting pain into understanding, the true art of narration. The true art of narration. Set down the facts as they occurred, but let your pen temper them with compassion. The world may draw instruction even from despair.
And you, Holmes, what lesson do you draw?
That deduction, though a mighty weapon, cannot touch the soul. Logic may reveal the crime, but only love, or its absence, explains it. That is my last deduction in this affair.
The clock on the mantel chimed 9. Holmes leaned back, half smiling, half weary, and filled his pipe anew. Now, the blue wreaths of smoke curled upward, soft as memory. For a while we sat in companionable silence, each lost in thought. Narrating. It is strange, yet I believe that in this quiet aftermath I saw the truest aspect of Sherlock Holmes, not the cold logician of public fame, but the man behind the mask, capable of compassion deeper than reason, touched yet undiminished by human sorrow. That night, I learned that genius need not be devoid of heart, and that even the keenest intellect may bow its head before the mystery of mercy.
Breaking the silence. Watson, you are unusually contemplative.
I was thinking that your words on mercy are worth as much as all your monographs.
Then perhaps one day you shall publish them under your own name. Call it A Study in Compassion. It would puzzle our critics.
Laugh softly. The world would scarcely believe it of you.
The world believes what suits it best. Let us leave them their illusions. They are the veils we all must wear.
Holmes rose and drew back the curtain. The fog had thinned, a faint gleam of moonlight silvered the rooftops of London. For a moment he stood outlined against that pale glow, tall, spare, and solitary, like some sentinel keeping watch over the sleeping city.
Softly. Look, Watson, the veil is lifted. Even London shows her face again.
Narrating, he spoke not of weather, I think, but of the soul itself. Then, turning from the window, he said good night and passed quietly to his room, leaving me alone with the dying fire. I sat long after, hearing the echo of his words. The cage is open, and the land sleeps. It seemed to me that for once Sherlock Holmes had tamed not a criminal, his own relentless mind. Thus ends the chronicle of the Veiled Lodger, a tale less of detection than of understanding, not F triumph, but of truth, And if ever, in years to come, the world should recall the name of Sherlock Holmes, let them remember also that beneath his science beat the heart of a man who knew both justice and pity,